There are statistics that say your marriage is between 40 and 50% likely to end in divorce. The author of a book on essentials for successful marriage will be joining me shortly. Also in this program, Pat Jacobs will be chatting with a young academic achiever from the Mark Twain Intermediate School. And I'll be talking with Isiris, who is running for civil court judge. Why do marriages fail? What contributes to a successful marriage? I've been reading this very interesting book, 12 Essentials for a Successful Marriage. And I'm joined by the author of this book, Dr. Lloyd Slowe. Dr. Slowe, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Why did you write this book? Why did you choose the topic of this book?
Well, actually, I was in Bible school when this book was written. I completed my master in theology, and I was moving on to do my doctoral. And when you've gotten to that level, here comes a time when you would ask to write your thesis or your dissertation.
Yes.
And so because of looking upon couples over a period of time, seeing them getting together during the course of dating, and subsequently they've gotten together in holy matrimony, and then suddenly I've understand that they've filed to be divorced or a letter of divorce. And so it always, get under my skin. How is it two people who were so grossly in love, suddenly they are like cats and dogs? And so hence the reason why I've taken the opportunity to write on 12 essential for a successful marriage.
What are the most important of these 12 essentials? Because we're not going to be able to go through all of these 12 essentials. But what are the most important ones, you'd say?
I think communication in marriage plays an integral role. Communication plays an integral role in every marriage. The truth is, there are three things that causes problem in every single marriages. And they are communication, either communication, number one, or finance, or sex. Every problem in our marriages falls under one of those three categories. And oftentimes, I ask the question, which one you think causes most of the problem in a marriage? And oftentimes people will say, well, money, because, the women likes money and they like to do shopping and they like to look nice and things of that nature. But I said, no, back up. And they would say, no, I think it's sex. I said, neither. I said, the one that causes most problem in our marriages is communication. Because in spite of what problems you might be having, if it's a financial crisis or if you're having sexual problem, unless both you and your spouse sit down and have a good communication regarding what is the issues, in your finances or in your sexual encounterment, those problems will not able to be solved.
Do you advise couples as well?
Yes, I do premarital and postmarital counseling.
How's your book going?
Well, it's not going good. I think it should be going better.
This book should be going better.
Yes.
I've read this book.
Yes.
And I've made several notations, obviously for our interview this evening. But there are some very important things in this text that people should really read. Who is your intended audience?
Well, I'll say people who are almost ready to enter into marriage. And secondly, people who've already married and they're having problem or crisis in their relationship.
You say that couples struggling in their marriages as well in your book. You said
Yes.
really need to find workable solutions. What are some of these workable solutions from your own experience as a pastor and as an author?
Well, I think one of the struggles and the reason why couples are having such a great struggle in their marriages is simply because they are not mature. Marriage calls for a degree of maturity. And I often says to people, marriage was never meant for a boy and a girl. Marriage was meant for a man and for a woman. People who are mature and ready to take on a certain degree of responsibility.
And not walk away if something is going wrong.
They have to stick it out and overcome and work things out. Because regardless of however the problems or the issues may be, the nature of the problem or the issue, there's always a solution to solve those problems.
Your book talks a lot about unconditional love. And at one point in the book, you say that unconditional love is a myth. What do you mean by that?
Well, oftentimes people misunderstood that word unconditional love. And they're not using that word unconditional love in the proper context of the word. Throughout the pages of the Bible, God talks about love. And when we talk about love, first and foremost, if I say I love you, now you would need to go back to the Greek word because there are several Greek words that more or less give us the real understanding of which love you're speaking about. Mm-hmm. And one of such is eros love, which is a romantical love, then the filial love, which has to do with brotherly love, and the agape love. The agape love is a love that God has for humanity, not the love that we have for God. And that's the unconditional love that I talk about in the book. Now, oftentimes people say as well, husband and wife as unconditional. I said, no, back up. That's wrong. Because if we're going to talk about unconditional love, what we want to understand, unconditional love cannot be demonstrated with mortal. We are mortal, or in the human sense of it, we cannot demonstrate unconditional love. Why? Because we change. If I do something to you or say something to you that you do not like, you would have the tendency to get back to me to do the same thing to me. It's like an eye for an eye. But when we talk about unconditional love, we have to look at God, because God never changes. He is immutable. He doesn't change.
But
period.
There are so many people who, when they get married, they do this in the church, most people, and then they get married and they never come back to church again.
Yeah.
So how do you get them to understand the importance of this unconditional love, this God-centered unconditional love?
Well, the truth is, people go to church, most people go to church in their lifetime 3 times. When they're born, when they got married, and when they die. Those are the 3 times.
Okay,
In order
so let's
to
talk
get
about the second time. Well, why they are alive and married to each other.
Well, to get them to understand, number one, people have got to willing to listen. One of the problems that I'm having, especially with young people, they're not willing and ready to listen to the older folks who have years of experiences. They always think that they are already arrived. There's nothing you and I can talk to them about. And so if you don't want to listen to me, well, then you were never able to get to the point of understanding what unconditional love is all about.
Your book also says, we've got about a minute left, you talk about the importance of understanding marriage as a covenant.
Well, when we talk about covenant has to do with a contractual agreement between one and 2 persons. Okay. And the covenant was not meant to be broken, period. So if I am entering into a marriage covenant, regardless what I'm going through, that covenant should not be broken. But if, for instance, if I marry my wife and I begin to abuse her, slap her, physically abuse and verbally abuse her, that's a broken covenant, because you have pledged before the pastor that you are willing and ready to take this woman to be your lawful wedding wife. Through death, through sickness, through whatever, you will not part. So why is it you're abusing your wife? That's a broken covenant.
Yes. I want to thank you for coming to chat about your book, 12 Essentials for a Successful Marriage.
That's right.
And I wish you luck. I hope sales improve. But it's good reading. I enjoyed reading this.
Well, I've written the book in such a form and fashion that a good
It's
reader
easy
can
to
read
read.
it out in one day and read it again and again
and again and again and
exactly.
again. I will read it again. Thank you for being my guest on Brooklyn 45.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Elections for civil court judge, district attorney, and city council are all taking place this year. And you may already be seeing many of the persons who are running for these positions visiting your communities, churches, mosques, and synagogues. Isiris, Isela, Isaac, you're running for civil court judge.
Yes, I am. I'm running countywide.
Okay, well, we're going to talk a lot about civil court judge and the importance of civil court judge. First of all, though, we have to issue a disclaimer that we are in no way endorsing you or endorsing anyone for civil court judge, but we're happy to have you on the program.
I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
What is important about the civil court judge? We hear about the city council members, we hear about many of these other elected positions, but very often we hear very little about the civil court judges.
And I think that's a problem. Oftentimes, people don't get any information on the candidates running for civil court. And, we go into the booth. I have to say I'm guilty of that. I've gone into the booth and I have had no information about the candidates. And these are really important positions because a civil court judge, which actually is a misleading title because you could be assigned to criminal court or family court, and it's for a term of 10 years, and you can spend your entire time in the civil court, the criminal court or family court, or wherever the system puts you. And so, the impact that judges have on people is immediate. Most of us are going to go before a judge. We may not necessarily have dealings with an assembly person, but a judge is going to decide, for example, whether you walk free, you get to keep your home, or in family court cases, your children. So I think people really need to pay attention to the candidates and what they have to offer and whether they're there for the right reasons, because it matters a lot.
We hear of some judges that are appointed.
Yes, the judges that sit in criminal court, they can be appointed, as well as in family court. And there's also the civil court interim appointments.
Yes.
Those occur when there's a vacancy, when a vacancy occurs from a position that's elected. But there is a great deal of deficiency in the criminal court and family court in terms of numbers. So a lot of the judges...
What do you mean by numbers?
The number of judges.
Oh, okay.
So that oftentimes judges that are elected civil are assigned to criminal and family court to meet the needs of the court system.
What qualifies you for this position?
Well, I've been an attorney now over 20 years, and my entire career has been about public service. I started out representing people living with HIV and AIDS in federal court with their immigration cases. I did that work in the 90s when medication had just become available. And so my clients, if they were sent back home, they would have surely perished. So I had to make sure to keep them here. I also did housing work with Brooklyn Legal Services. And I represented the members of District Council 37. That's the union for city employees. A lot of my clients were retirees, people living on a fixed income or limited income. And so I had to make sure to keep them, housed as well, because the impact on their lives would be significant. And for the past 13 years, I've been working for a judge. I work for a judge in Supreme Court. We deal with felonies. And I see the impact that, as I was mentioning, that judges have. And I think that given my experience, I'm in a unique position to, do the work that's required, to try to do what you can to make people's lives better.
I was reading this article very, very recently about this discrimination against renters, people who want to rent and they're told you can't bring your kids.
Oh, wow.
and I don't suppose you can even comment about that.
Well, I can say off the top that you are not, from my recollection, I would have to do the research, I like to speak without first documenting everything I say, but you cannot discriminate.
No, you can't discriminate.
That's clear. I don't think there's any ambiguity on that in terms of housing, especially people with children.
Yes.
Because we know that housing is fundamental, and it's just a basic need, and the suffering that children face in homelessness.
What restrictions will there be on your activities if you are elected?
Well, there are significant restrictions. Judges are prohibited from engaging in any political activity. Even as a judge candidate, I'm restricted in, I can't make contributions, any political contributions. I can't really even charitable contributions, even though those are permitted, but there are restrictions on that. And I can't make any, communication that would lead anyone to think that I have a particular view, especially on a controversial issue, or be in any way political, frankly. It's supposed to be neutral. You have to have an open mind and have, the public see you as someone that they can come to, and they'll have a chance, make their arguments, and that, you will consider it, and, give them their fair shake in court.
When we see pictures of judges, we see pictures of older people.
I'm no spring chicken. I'm going to be 47 in a couple of months. But I think that age, if you're a young person, it offers some diversity in terms of insight. And I think there's value to that. And I think ultimately is whether you're competent and you have that brilliance and that passion to do the work. So we don't want to be ageist and say, you're too old or you're too young. You just got to come in with the right intentions.
And I think many judges, I was going to say most judges, but many judges, most judges, whichever, tend to be male. And I think there's a difference there when it comes to the civil court judges. There are quite a few female civil court judges.
That is true. For whatever reason, it seems that Brooklynites prefer women judges. I don't know. That seems to be the data, but I can't say with certain, again, I haven't documented it, but I say anecdotally.
What's the support base that you have? I know that you hit the street a lot.
Yes, I do. I have to. I have to be out there, and I have to make sure that the voters get an opportunity to meet me and interact with me and get some impression about me and be aware of my candidacy, obviously, and they can do their own work and research. But in terms of, if I may, if you wanted to expand on your question that you were asking.
Well, we want to know, you've been going door to door?
Oh, well, yes, I have to just, like I said, I have to make sure to be out there and be seen. And so that's critical. In terms of the support that I have, the support is, the community I would call my base, members in churches, I would say, maybe the Caribbean community, that's the community I come out of, people that I presume I may be relevant to. So I would say, ultimately, that will be decided on election day,
Yes.
who you're actually getting support from. You know how politics is.
And you're enjoying the going the door to door and the meeting people.
I'm enjoying that very much. It's a very uplifting experience, to be able to inform people about my effort, as I related, that is, significant and relevant to them. And, I've been able to meet really wonderful people that are concerned and caring about the community, and that's been really quite uplifting.
What do you say to people who don't really understand the importance of the judicial system?
Well, I tell them they need to find out, because it's likely they will be in front of a judge, and you want to make sure that when you get in front of a judge that it's somebody that's respectful, because oftentimes people come to the courthouse and they have no idea about it and they're intimidated. And I think that the judges have to be mindful of that and just make sure allow the litigants to feel comfortable and tell their stories. That's ultimately what it's about, allowing people to tell their stories and to listen.
People look up to you when they hear that you're running for civil court judge. What do they say to you?
Well,
especially our young people.
Yes, I was just as I was at the subway a couple of hours ago, a mom came with her twins, gorgeous girls, and she expressed how she was grateful that I was involved in this effort, and it's just wonderful to be able to listen to those girls and hear what they're about and what they were thinking, and just to see their brilliance. Really
Of course,
wonderful.
they can't vote. So what about
No,
the
they can't vote,
adults?
but they
Those
have
people
something
who
to
can
say.
vote?
They can influence, mind
Yes.
you, these kids.
Isiris Isaac, you're running for civil court judge.
Yes.
Well, thanks for being my guest on
And
Room
thank
45.
you. I'm grateful, Professor Tate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, it's good to see you here.
Thank you.
And I know it's going to be an interesting race.
Yes.
And I know that you're going to expect the best, and you will be happy
Yes.
with the result.
Yes, I think so.
Now to Pat Jacobs, who's sitting with this week's Young Academic Achiever. Pat?
Thank you, Sam. With me is Jayden Glass, a student at Mark Twain Intermediate School. Welcome to the program,
Thank you.
Jaeden. Now you're here because you are regarded as an outstanding student. What is it like for you to be scoring 90 and above?
Well, I would say it's pretty amazing because I'm at the top of the list, so I would say it's pretty good for me because I have fun time learning. My education is pretty good.
And I understand that because of your academic achievement, that you have made a name for yourself as a public speaker.
Yes.
How so?
So I was salutatorian for my pre-kindergarten school, and from K to 5th grade, I was valedictorian.
All right. That is an achievement. But I'm going to switch now to something that I find very special about you. You are an accomplished musician.
Okay.
What have you been doing at school?
Well, at school, I have been doing music now, and well, music, I would say it's very important to me. I like it a lot.
What do you play in at school?
Cello,
You play the cello?
yes.
And you play in what band?
The JS Trio,
The JS Trio is it's a special group with just your friends. But I understand that you play in the chamber orchestra,
yes.
and that is a special orchestra.
Yes, so,
And your first year.
yes.
Now, first year means that you are one of the most outstanding students, right?
Yes,
I mean, one of the most outstanding players.
yes.
Outside of school, what have you been doing? What are some of your accomplishments in music?
Well, my accomplishments in music, I have been playing at Carnegie Hall with the School for Strings for a long time. I've also I went during the summer, last summer, I went to the String Fest.
That's at the Kaufman Music Center.
Yes.
And what else did you do last year at the center?
I have also been taking classes at the Lucy Moses School, and it was pretty fun.
That's where you're learning music.
Yes.
You played at Brooklyn College, did you not?
Yes.
What was that?
That was the advanced orchestra. So it was supposed to be for kids older than me, but they let me play. And now younger kids are now joining, so I think it's pretty good.
They let you play? Did
Yeah.
somebody just like you, or was it based on your accomplishment?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's based on my accomplishment.
I understand that you are the youngest kid to have played with them.
Yes.
So you, apart from these performances, you spent quite a bit of time learning music and developing your skills. What are some of those things that you have been doing?
Well, I'm going to a summer camp in Cleveland, which will
That's
be...
the Cleveland Institute for Music?
Yes. And I'm also going to the Kinhaven summer camp, so
And I understand that both camps are in the summer?
yes.
And for the Sphinx, that is Sphinx Performance Academy,
Yes.
that you had to take an audition, didn't you?
Yes.
And I understand that because of that you won a scholarship.
Well, yes, because you audition and then once you get in free.
You get in free?
Yes.
All right. How cool is that? So tell me what got you started in music, and why have you continued to pursue it?
So my parents pushed me into music. I started at the Brooklyn Conservatory, and I liked the cello because it had a range of sounds high and low. And so I continued with it because I liked it a lot and it was very exciting.
So they pushed you in it and you didn't rebel?
No.
You fell in love with it, would you say?
I was a little shy at first, but yes, I did.
So what do you plan to do with it?
Well, when I'm older and I get my career, I plan to use that as a side job because I like it a lot.
And you mean you would probably perform with an orchestra?
Yes.
So you just mentioned when you pursue your career. What career are you thinking of?
Well, I'm thinking of either being a mechanical engineer because I like building things, and I will also think about being a neurosurgeon. So, yeah.
You're not so sure which one you'll want to pursue.
No.
But you have a plan, because when you spoke to me before, you mentioned something about using music to get to the career. How is that plan?
Well, it actually helps me study. So music, it helps my emotions, it helps me think, it helps my memory. And so...
But I was thinking of, didn't you say you're going to use music to get into college?
Yes, I'll use it to get scholarships because, well, I'm very good at it, and I will use it to get scholarships, so...
So you're going to use music as a stepping stone?
Yes.
And then you pursue some other stuff. Well, that is some plan. And I can't imagine at age 11, well, you tell me you're now 12?
Yes.
That you already have a path in terms of your career goal and the role that music is going to, and music obviously has a part to play in that. Jaeden, it has been a pleasure having you today on our program, and we wish you every success.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Pat. You can watch this Brooklyn 45 program on our Brooklyn 45 TV YouTube channel. And we'd love you to go to our Brooklyn 45 Facebook page and post your comments. Again, if you know a middle school or high school student who has an average of 90 or above and you'd like us to feature him or her on Brooklyn 45, go to our Facebook page and message us or email us at info@brooklyn45.com. On behalf of our entire Brooklyn 45 production team, thank you for watching our program.